Hello and welcome to News Central. In Watching News Now, I am Judith Atibi. The top stories at this hour. INEC deploys 5,000 beavers, 18,000 ad hoc workers for Edo governorship election. President Tinubu may merge ministries, departments and agencies, scrap humanitarian ministry. At least 12 soldiers killed in Niger raid. We'll bring you details shortly. And we begin the news at this hour with update on the Edo governorship election, where the Independent National Electoral Commission is set to begin the deployment of more than 5,000 Bimodal Voter Accreditation Systems, beavers, and other sensitive materials on Thursday for the Edo State governorship election scheduled for Saturday. Sensitive materials, including ballot papers and result sheets, arrived in Edo State on Wednesday via Benin Airport and were transported to secure storage facilities under tight security. This comes as the 17 political parties participating in the poll are slated to end their campaign today. The All Progressives Congress candidate, Senator Monday Okwebolo Asu Igodalo of the People's Democratic Party and Olumide Akpata of the Labour Party are the leading contenders ahead of the ballot. In the meantime, a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress in Edo State has accused the state governor of spreading falsehood ahead of the upcoming governorship poll. He says that claims by the governor, Godwin Obaseki, that the federal government is using state powers to muzzle the People's Democratic Party and its candidate, Asu Igodalo, is false, mischievous, and misleading.
Why is Godwin Obaseki and the PDP now shouting blue murder? What has changed? He has accused all the institutions, the police, the INEC, and everybody being against him. I want to make it quite clear that he is facing election for the first time on his own. All the leaders that have been working for him, that brought him to power, he has abandoned all of them. That is what he's suffering. 90% of the leaders that left with him from APC to PDP to return him have left him. There's nothing like federal might. What he's experiencing is self-inflicted because he thought he was already home and dry, that he's now a master. Obaseki is just like an apprentice tailor that was being taught how to become a tailor. Immediately, the master gave him scissors to put the scissor to teach him how to measure and cut. He now felt he has arrived.
News Central's correspondent Bettina Unweli is on standby at Edo State and is ready to give us update on the situation of things in Edo State. Bettina, if you can hear me, well done. And what's the latest in Edo State?
Of the final round-up campaign from Olumide Akpata of the Labour Party. If you just follow my direction, you can see that just a few feet from where we are right now. You can see the final campaign of Earlier on, we had the CBN office, where the INEC officers were there to collect all sensitive materials. And we saw how that played out, being moved with escort, police, and the army to make sure that security is in order. There's also talk, not security, here in the city. As you go along the road, you will either see a police truck or an army truck on patrol or stationed by close to, very open places like the market. So I would say that, in my opinion, from what I have seen on ground, Edo State is ready to pick their next governor.
And for the people, how so far were you able to speak to any resident and just to hear their thoughts on what's to come in the next more than 24 hours from now?
Yes, I have spoken to a few residents, and from what I can tell from their responses, I would not like to call the name of the parties that they are supporting, but I would say that tensions are very high, especially because the incumbent right now is the PDP, and they have certain complaints to residents on how good or how not good the current government have done. So they are looking for another party that can actually make changes here in Edo State.
Well, it's very clear, even the running up to this election, that there seem to be no favorites at all. It's a very closely contested race for the governorship. And so we hope to see what will happen in the next less than 24 hours. Well, many thanks, Bettina. I appreciate you for doing this with us. Bettina Nweli there. She is our correspondent live at Edo State. Away from that, President Bola Tinubu will not attend the 79th United Nations General Assembly session in New York this year. Now, this was made known in a statement released on Thursday by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga. He stated that the President has thus directed Vice President Kashim Shettima to lead Nigeria's delegation. President Tinubu, who returned to the country last Sunday after his trip to China and the United Kingdom, wants to focus on domestic issues and address some of the country's challenges, especially after the recent devastating flooding. At UNGA 79, Vice President Kashim Shettima will deliver Nigeria's national statement to the General Assembly, attend important sideline meetings and events, and hold bilateral meetings. Away from that, there are strong indications that President Bola Tinubu may scrap the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation as part of a major cabinet rejig. The exercise could also see some portfolios split and others merged into a single entity, while some ministers would be relieved of their duties. Tinubu has been facing increasing pressure from within and outside his party, the All Progressives Congress, to sack underperforming ministers in his cabinet. Although the president had warned against underperformance about 10 months ago, the cabinet had remained largely intact, save for the suspension of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, and that's Dr. Betta Edu. And now joining us to discuss this as an economist is an economist and public affairs analyst, Aliyu Elias. Aliyu, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for coming on. We're pressed for time, so let's get started. This is not the first time we'll be hearing of agencies merging. The Stephen Orosaya report readily comes to mind when you think about this, which now seems to have been forgotten again after so much noise some months ago when the president said that, they were going to take this the recommendations of the report into consideration and move on it. But what are your thoughts on this so far?
Right. After 12 years, because I recall it was 2012 that Orosai came up with that report. And during that period, we have the number of agencies that we have during that period was at around 300. And now we have over 1,000 agencies. And, and now we are talking about scrapping the agencies. So scrapping the some of the agency might look like a tall order. However, let's give President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that opportunity. Let's trust him that he's going to do something. But for me, I think it's late now to say we want to go back from 300 to 250. Now we have about 1,000. So are we coming down to 800? Are we merging MDAs? But if you ask me, I think for the challenge that we have now, it's critical we merge agencies together because some agencies have likely or what it look as if they are doing the same thing, double job. I think by so doing that will help. So it's a good one if we merge some agencies.
All right. Now, he's scrapping. There's a potential scrapping of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. What do you believe are the key factors driving this potential scrap altogether of the ministry? What do you think it could be? Because now, first of all, there was a suspension of the minister of that ministry. But what are your thoughts on what could possibly be the reason?
Right. I think it would be a very, very bad thing. For me, I recall in my thesis, I did research on poverty reduction in Nigeria, and one of our recommendations is like alleviation programs, and that's what actually President Muhammadu Buhari did, because he actually institutionalized. Because you recall during Obasanjo it was called NAPEP, during Yaradua wealth creation, during Jonathan it was you win, and during President Muhammadu Buhari it was NSIP, but he was able to institutionalize poverty reduction program. So I think it is wrong to really, if you want to scrap any ministry, should it be humanitarian and disasters management ministry? Should have been other ministry, not this one, because this one is actually what we need to institutionalize. Because you recall, we will continue to have poverty reduction program. So where is the agency that is going to supervise, anchor it and do a lot of things? So I think it's important we retain our humanitarian affairs and also maybe now scrap some other agencies. It is important that we maintain this humanitarian.
And speaking of just how important it is, we hear of a possible cabinet reshuffle. How might the proposed cabinet reshuffle impact the effectiveness of governance and, most importantly, public service delivery in Nigeria?
Right. If you ask me, I will even say it's coming a little bit late because I was expecting after the appraiser, 1 year appraiser of those ministers, by now we shall have that reshuffle. It has a lot of benefits. One, if there is a particular ministry or agency that is not performing well, the best let that person go and let someone that will perform better comes. And by the time you do it for 2-3 persons, other will sit well and make sure they perform their civic duty. You recall that you also have an essay on public administration. Is it Aisha? What have you done? Was thinking of that. So I was thinking they are going to appraise them the KPI, key performance indicator, to make sure that they actually do what they're supposed to do. I think we are at that level in Nigeria whereby if you don't perform, you need to go within a year. So it's a good one in the right direction.
Now, okay, so besides just reshuffling, right, one has to ask the question, is reshuffle then the answer? How can the government best address the concerns of citizens, Nigerians, when it comes to regarding underperformance, among ministers? Because you might reshuffle and you might take, for example, the Minister for Women Affairs to say, I don't know, one other ministry, and then they don't perform or they still give the same performance. I mean, what informs this type of decision and what's the best way to address it?
Right. Well, in as much as we believe the technocrats are those directors that work in that agencies, but the thing is, the leadership is very, very key. I can mention some ministry for you that you could hear them, they are doing something because of the person there. It's not about being that person studying what is even manning. No, it's about that person having a team lead spirit and be able to governate and garner our interest to make sure we achieve our aim. So I think if anyone is not providing services as expected, it's enough to let that person go. So I think it will actually bring us more plans. And ask if it will affect the citizenry. Policy direction is very, very key in the life of Nigerian citizens. So if you have the right policy direction, I think we'll have a better way to go. So I think it's a good one. It's a welcome idea. Unlike President Muhammadu Buhari, for good 8 years never have a major reshuffle, never bring anybody out, change anybody because of low performance. And you could see most of them, the performance was abysmal, and there's nothing we can do. So I think if he can do it early now, it will help him to really perform.
All right. Well, many thanks for doing this with us, Aliyu. We appreciate you for coming. Aliyu Alias there. He is a political affairs analyst and he joined us just to discuss more on a possible reshuffle and the scrapping of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Once again, many thanks. And we switch gears now. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has redeployed Police Commissioner Tunji Disu from the Rivers State Police Command to the Federal Capital Territory FCT Command. The IGP moved the Commissioner of Police in Delta, Abaniwada Olufemi, to the Rivers State Police Command, while the FCT CP, and that's Peter Okpara, was moved to the Delta State Police Command. In a statement on Thursday, Force spokesman Muyiwa Adejobi said the redeployment was to strategically emplace a police force well efficient for effective policing. Also, following the approval of the Police Service Commission, the IGP deployed 4 CPs as commissioners of police for Abia, Lagos, Ebonyi, and Akwa Ibom state commands. The deployment includes the posting of CP Danladi Nda to Abia State Command, CP Olarewaju Ishola Olawale to Lagos State Command, CP Antonia Adaku Uchanya to Ebonyi State Command, and CP Festus Iribo to Akwa Ibom State Command. You're watching news now on News Central TV. We're going on a short break. When we come back, the Kano State government moves to dissolve its cabinet. More on this after the break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. We'll continue the news in northern Nigeria, where Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State has dissolved the interim management committees of all 44 local government areas. The committees, which were formed to implement grassroots policies and programs, had a 6-month tenure. The governor commended the outgoing members for their dedication and assured them of future involvement. The local government affairs will now be overseen by the Director of Personal Management until the local government election on October 26, 2024. The governor emphasized transparency and accountability in local governance. This deployment, or rather this development, comes as Kano prepares for the upcoming local government election, which will bring in newly elected officials to take over local governance across the state. Away from that, residents of Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have expressed anger and frustration over a lack of coordination in the distribution of the federal government's subsidized rice sales to citizens. Some of them say that despite queuing for about 3 consecutive days, citizens who have besieged the sales point, being coordinated by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Poverty Alleviation, have been unable to buy rice. Rice, which is a staple product consumed by many citizens in the country, is being sold by the federal government for about 40,000 naira a bag, compared to the current price in the market, which is sold for about 85,000 naira. News Central's Joshua Imarayi brings the report from the ground.
Anger and frustration on the faces of many residents. Despite arriving early at this rice point, many of them are turning on each other to vent out their frustration following a lack of coordination seen on ground. Many of them have converged here to benefit from the federal government's subsidized rice scheme. However, despite some of them visiting the sales point in the last 3 days and the long hours of waiting, it is evidently clear that their hopes will once again be dashed.
Since on Saturday, I was coming here, the same story, coming here to the same story. Now, the last time they're attending to staff. Instead of them, the staff supposed to get their own separate. Without, you see how people are waiting for just 1 bag of rice.
Government should have assigned this to MDAs. It will make it faster, easy, stress-free. The number of people here, they are just less, and they are unable to manage the crowd. Imagine by tomorrow next, by the time people believe, because the number you are seeing here, people have not yet believed that this is real. By the time they realize that it's true, there will be stampede.
Some of them are accusing government representatives of intentionally frustrating the process and having due disregard for citizens.
The agency handling this, they may be trying, but they are not doing it well. The process is hectic, and you see them bringing their people 1, 2, having side talks. I want to call it side hustle. I don't want to say they are hoarding or they are diverting. Well, I saw one bag of rice at the corner. I saw another one driving into the same premises. So I don't know where they are getting their rice from. But so far, with about maybe 500 or 600 people that are gathered here, have not seen anybody with rice. They told us the server has shut down yesterday. Today, the process is slow. What is happening?
Despite repeated attempts, all efforts to contact the distribution director has been unsuccessful. The office in charge of the distribution has cited its unavailability to speak with journalists. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
And now happening now, we're being informed that the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Frank Mba, is now briefing journalists on the Edo governorship election.
And we will be collaborating and working with those situation rooms in order to be able to resolve complaints that are resolvable within the quickest possible time. We will do all within our powers to also ensure that misconduct by police personnel and other law enforcement agencies that will be deployed in these elections are reduced to the barest minimum. And in this regard, our roving teams and monitoring teams will also be keeping an eye on the activities of our police personnel. We appeal to you to help us in checkmating the activities of those who might be spreading fake news during this election. We have seen that in the past. We've seen instances of misinformation and disinformation, and therefore we'll be appealing to you to help us in checkmating the activities of some people who might deliberately try to use the instrumentality of fake news to cause panic within the polity, to heat up the polity, to create confusion, and possibly instigate a breakdown of law and order. In that wise, I will appeal to you to always fact-check information with us directly and with other agencies that will be involved in the entire process. If your instinct tells you that this seems not to be like the truth, it might just as well not be the truth. And therefore, please do us this big favor. Do Edo people this big favor, and do our country this big favor of always, thoroughly, meticulously fact-checking certain information that you consider sensitive enough to do those checks on. We will also be releasing phone numbers of not just of the control rooms, but also my operational phone number for purposes of deepening transparency, accountability, and oversight of citizens on our activities during this election. And as soon as we are finishing here, we'll be releasing my own number as well as that of the control room. We'll urge citizens to take advantage of these platforms to reach us either by voice call or text messages. We will actually prefer you send us messages owing to the nature of the operations that we'll be embarking on. And finally, I want you to know that our approach to securing this process will be comprehensive. We will operate on land, we will operate on air, and we will operate on the waterways. And we will leave no stone unturned in ensuring that we deliver, working in conjunction with INEC, other law enforcement agencies, the media practitioners, the CSOs, the election observers, and other authorized individuals and organizations in delivering an election that we'll all be proud of. And the number, my operational number for purposes of this election would be, or rather is, 070 25 000 383. 070 25 000 383. I will equally appeal to citizens not to engage in pranks call. I will also appeal to them not just to call for the fun of calling. Please only call or send us messages when when it's absolutely necessary to do so. I want to thank you all for coming, and I'm ready to take questions.
Thank you so much, DIG. Corporal Mopo, can you please move forward the back? CP, PMF, and CP wait here. There are chairs for you here. Please stay good for them, let them come forward. They came earlier, we don't want them to disturb our cameramen. Just stay wait for them there. So let's. Thank you. Can you give him the mic? Oh, yes, give us the mic. It's working. Use his word directly to the mouth. Kiss the mouth. Mic is the other one. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Huge congratulations on your dedication to India. My name is President Tinubu. Two concerns. I see that this formation today does not represent the intelligence conduct of the elections. And in the past, we used to see the army, the DSS and the rest of them join these in such a way that there is no territorialism in delivering this election. The police has made these promises, but it has to take the different security agencies working in synergy to be able to do that. I don't know what the situation is for the election. The second concern is on vote lines. One strong thing that will play very important role will be the use of money to reduce voters. I don't know whether there is a strategy that has been designed to combat that challenge. Thank you very much.
We're almost done. I better close this thing, may we finish, may we waka. You don't finish, Johnny.
In the election, there will be priority voting. I very much believe INEC to do what they promise. But the problem is that when these persons with disabilities don't come out to vote, the people will be on the queue will not allow us to vote. So because of if the tension is high, they will want to disregard that right to vote. And sometimes the police will be there, they will not do anything about it. Either they do not know that there is priority voting, or they do not know the right of person with disability. In this election, sir, what is going to be very different? It's going to be as usual, or you are able to educate your men to allow for that priority voting to assist persons with disability to effectively participate in this election.
What's your name?
My name is Comrade Dr. I'm the President of the Law Organization.
See, only you, Comrade Doctor.
Good afternoon, sirs. You're welcome. My name is Judith. I have an observation because during last 4 years election in Edo State. It happens that political party members were bringing in food, drinks, and water. And you will see policemen collecting the food and the drinks, of which I stood against it. I asked them.
Scenes that you're watching is at Edo State there, as the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Frank Kumba, is briefing journalists and also election observers ahead of the Edo governorship election. They have just provided information as to how well prepared they are ahead of the elections this Saturday. He's also said that he will give out the contact details of every security personnel on ground, as well as his personal contact number as well. He's also said that and tasked the journalists present there to be mindful of the news coverage ahead of the elections for Saturday, and also just sounded the alarm on always fact-checking when it comes to necessary information as the news breaks for all 17 parties that will be participating for the election. As he's there, he's now fielding questions from journalists as they are asking questions from the Deputy General of Police there, Frank Kumba, as well as his other members, or rather colleagues, sitting next to him there. Switch gears now away from Edo State elections. Despite numerous interventions by government and NGOs, Nigeria continues to see a disturbing rise in cases of sexual and gender-based violence. In response, the Lagos State Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Agency, at its 10th anniversary, called on all relevant stakeholders to intensify efforts to address the long-standing systemic abuse and violations affecting women and children. News Central's Omolola Olalade reports.
Fight against sexual and gender-based violence in Nigeria has been ongoing for decades. Yet the country continues to witness a surge in SGBV cases despite interventions from both the government and non-governmental organizations. While the northeastern region of Nigeria has seen a dramatic increase in gender-based violence, Lagos State also records a high number of cases. This led to the creation of the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency a decade ago to prevent and respond to SGBV incidents.
There are different stakeholders in this space, non-governmental organizations working in the communities, doing amazing work to create awareness about these issues, law enforcement personnel, other ministries, departments and agencies, the judiciary, for instance, the correctional services. It's a whole network. And so it's important for us every now and then to come together and do an X-ray of our interventions and forge a way ahead for the next 10 years.
According to the agency, Lagos State recorded 5,624 cases of violence between August 2022 and July 2023. Of this, 2,331 were domestic violence cases, 90 involved rape, 72 were sexual assault, and 123 involved threats to life. With the rising number of reported cases, stakeholders, particularly religious institutions and legal authorities, must play a critical role in addressing SGBV effectively.
They've succeeded in creating not less than 22 family support units in our police stations. And we are looking forward to creation of more of this family support unit so that the issues of gender-based violence cases can be taken care of in every unit.
We are open to jump into such opportunities and support as much as we can to ensure that justice is accessible to all, and we remove every kind of barrier that makes people not to be able to access justice according to what the law has already provided for.
Do a lot of counseling in the aspect of spousal relationship. If we discover the man is being terrible, even at times we bring in the law enforcement to help us.
Women and children remain the most affected by this violent act, but persons with disabilities are often at an even greater risk.
We have done our survey and realized that a lot of the people who fall survivors in this category, especially when it comes to women, are women who are not economically empowered, who have to solely depend on their caregivers and cannot leave. But where a woman is economically empowered, she can actually move out of where she is hire, paid hands, and then is safe for first herself and then her children in the event that she has children.
As gender-based violence increases, it becomes imperative to strengthen mechanisms, especially among law enforcement agencies, to protect women, girls, and other vulnerable groups. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
And watching news now on News Central TV, coming up. At least 12 soldiers killed in Niger Republic raid. We'll tell you more about this after the break. Join us again. And the news continues in West Africa, where a series of deadly attacks have left at least 12 soldiers dead and 30 wounded in Niger Republic. The army announced on state-run television on Wednesday. The violence erupted across multiple regions, including Talabiri and Difa, where extremist groups like Boko Haram and the Islamic State are active. In the latest attack, a new resistance group called the Patriotic Movement for Freedom and Justice claimed responsibility for a raid on a military outpost in Agadez. The Nigerian army says it's pursuing the attackers who are fleeing towards the Libyan border. The country has seen a surge in violence since the military coup in July, with over 1,500 civilians and soldiers killed in the past year. Lebanon's health minister, Faris Abidad, says 37 people were killed and more than 3,500 wounded in a new toll after handheld devices used by Hezbollah members exploded across Lebanon in attacks blamed on Israel. Abidad said 25 people were killed on Wednesday and 12 on Tuesday, updating on earlier toll of 32 dead overall.
بخصوص الشهداء الرقم هو لازال 12 شهيد اللي نحن ذكرناهم قبل، هيدا الرقم ما تغير. بخصوص الجرحى الرقم يعني التوتل اللي الاجمالي لعدد الجرحى اللي وصلوا على المستشفيات في ذلك اليوم هو 2323. آخر رقم عند وزارة الصحة بخصوص الشهداء اللي سقطوا باعتداءات البارحة كانت 25 شهيد. نحن حتى الآن في عنا 25 شهيد. الرقم اللي كنا أصدرناه امبارح بالليل آخر واحد كان 20. نحن الرقم اللي هلأ عنا 25 شهيد. بما يتعلق بالجرحى اللي سقطوا امبارح كان عنا نحن 608 جرحى. هذا كان العدد الإجمالي.
For more on this, I'm joined by our chief international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, it's always good to see you. Let's get started. Can you tell us what's the latest, from the region?
Well, for the past 42 minutes or so, the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has been speaking about this attack. Now, he said that this could be a declaration of war by Israel. He called the attack a massacre. He praised the emergency services, but reiterated that this attack in Lebanon, that's Tuesday's pager exploding attack and yesterday's exploding walkie-talkies, crossed a red line. He also tried to play down the attack somewhat, saying that Israel intended to kill 4,000 people but didn't succeed. But 37 people still died. He talked about what happens in war. The one side attacks and then another side attacks, and that could hint at the escalation that is to come. He also said that the group suffered an unprecedented blow. Now, whilst he has been giving this particular speech, Israeli jets have flown over the capital of Lebanon, Beirut, and fired flares. That's thought to be a distraction tactic for people who have been tuned in to hear the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah give that speech. Now, these speeches tend to be quite long, and while I've been listening in, obviously he will have said more than this, but those are the main headlines from his speech, and we're now waiting to see what he says in terms of an escalation and in terms of a retaliation.
And what has been the reaction to the 2 days of, thousands of explosions in Lebanon?
Well, the feeling on the ground in Lebanon is that Lebanon is caught up between a war that's between Israel, Gaza, Iran, Hezbollah, and everywhere else. And lots of the people that were killed were not Hezbollah fighters or not Hezbollah commandos or leaders. They were women and children. Yes, there was a lot of young men involved as well, but a lot of the people that were injured and killed actually weren't anything to do with Hezbollah. So there's a feeling in Lebanon that they are caught in the crossfire. People are terrified. At the airport at the moment, no walkie-talkies or pagers are allowed on any flights. But there's a feeling that people are even scared to use their everyday mobile phones because people don't know what could be next, what communication devices could have explosives in them. And I think especially with the pagers, because a message came and people looked at the message, and that's when the pager exploded. Hence why you have a lot of injuries in lower limbs, in the hands, in the lower part of the arm, and in faces and eyes. People are scared to use their devices as well. So it's a real feeling of terror and panic in Lebanon at the moment. And because, of course, the bomb blast took place in more than one place, from the south to the north of Lebanon, to Beirut and other cities as well. It was indiscriminate. And yesterday's walkie-talkie attacks happened at funerals, the funerals of those people who were killed on Tuesday. So a real feeling of terror and panic in Lebanon at the moment.
At this point, one has to ask, how close are we to an all-out war in the region, spilling over from Israel and Gaza?
And that really is the key question. And that's why Hassan Nasrallah's speech this afternoon is so key. He will give us an indication of what Hezbollah intends to do in terms of a retaliation. I think we probably are closer to an all-out war in the region, spilling over, like you so rightly said, than we've ever been. And we're also at a point where Hezbollah is on its knees. Communications have been interfered with. Commanders and fighters have been killed. This would be a prime opportunity, actually, for Israel to do some real damage to Hezbollah. Now, Hezbollah fighters and internal people are saying, look, we will come back stronger. This was only a dent in the armor. The commander, the leader, has said that this was an unprecedented attack, so conflicting sort of messaging there. But I think we are definitely closer than perhaps we've ever been to a situation where we could have all-out war. And it looks like Lebanon really could be the casualty in war, not just Hezbollah leaders, but everyday people across Lebanon who are scared at the moment.
Well, Afia, many thanks for doing this. Would also appreciate you for coming on. Afia Hagen there, it's News Central's Chief International Correspondent. Once again, thank you. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has decided to maintain its Ways and Means advances to the federal government at a 5% limit for fiscal years 2024 to 2025, as stated in its recent monetary, credit, foreign trade and exchange policy guidelines. This decision contrasts with a National Assembly bill that proposed increasing the borrowing limit to 10%. On the show Business Edge on News Central TV, Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO of Asha Investment Limited, expressed concerns that Nigeria's economic managers have repeatedly stated their commitment to controlling excessive borrowing, but have failed to fulfill these promises.
And I remember when the minister came, the minister said that we will not be having, they won't be borrowing, they make sure that they try to pay up the ways and means. By doing that, also they have to pay through using coupon, which I think they said they were going to use to make sure that they are able to pay. So for me, I think government has not really kept to that. But again, it depends on their project. They have to make sure that their projects are running and the fund is not there. Exchange rate also has gone up. That's one. Then secondly, again, crude oil target has not been met. In the budget is 1.7 million barrels per day. What we're still doing 1.33.
Nottingham Forest is set to offer Super Eagles defender Ola Aina a new contract at the City Ground. The Reds only extended his current deal during the summer to keep him at the club for this season, following an impressive debut campaign. But it is understood they already want to tie him down to a longer contract after a brilliant start to the new Premier League season. Aina has started all of Forest's opening 4 matches in the top flight, helping them make an unbeatable start. The Nigerian international helped the Reds keep a clean sheet as they pulled off a famous win against Liverpool at Anfield last time out. And that's all we can take at this time. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. INEC has deployed 5,000 beavers, 18,000 ad hoc workers for Edo governorship election. And we also told you that President Tinubu may merge ministries, departments and agencies, scrap humanitarian ministry. And lastly, we told you about the at least 12 soldiers that were killed in Niger raid. Remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422 or on Star Times channel 274 on Avo TV, or just stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Judith, Atibi.